Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is my June wrap-up for all the books that I read in the month of June. I'm really excited to share with you some of these titles. Some of them were rereads and some of them were new reads, so it was a lot of fun just getting to explore some new titles and to revisit some titles that I knew that I was going to love. The first one, Witch Child by Celia Reese, I reread as an audiobook, and the audiobook was amazing. I loved the narrator and all of the different voices, and what this is historical fiction, realistic young adult fiction. You have young 14-year-old Mary Newberry, who is living in England during the time of all of the witch hunts, and she loses her grandmother as a result. She was accused of being a witch, and so she is able to make her way to the New World and the American colonies to try to find safety. But despite her, going into a whole new group of people, she still has this whisper of witch around her, and it's just kind of her trying to live her life on her terms, and you kind of see a lot of the struggles that she goes through trying to achieve that goal. So 10 out of 10, definitely recommend. This is one of my favorites. Now these two I read back to back on the behest of my mother, who is a big fan of crime novels in general. So, of course, I obviously started with You by Carolyn Kepnes, and you focus on main character and narrator Joe Goldberg is a young man living in New York City. He works in a bookstore that he pretty much has free reign over. You find out some troubling information about his past, and you find out some flashbacks of actions that he has taken against women because he has a sociopathic view of the world, and that kind of poisons his ability to interact with others. And he falls in love with a young girl named Guinevere Beck, who's kind of his manic pixie dream girl, except that she wants to be high society, and so she is clamoring to be with people that really just disgust Joe, and so he struggles with trying to love Guinevere Beck and trying to make her the person that he wants her to be, and she, unaware of Joe's mental instability, falls in love with him as well, and it's really not a very good matchup for the two of them. So I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's a pretty decent read. It did get a little laggy at times. I was just kind of a bit bored. Some of the characters I wasn't really invested in, and it was just, there were times that felt like a lull. But it was really interesting to be inside the head of a quote-unquote bad guy. And that was what continued with Hidden Bodies, where we follow Joe to California, where he is trying to right a wrong. He fell in love with another young lady who betrayed and abandoned him and then ran off to California, and so he's hunting her down, and then ends up falling in love with someone new. And that comes with its own heap of troubles, and so he's never really redeemed. It's not a redemptive story. He's still who he is throughout, and the decision making that he has and what he thinks is a solution to a problem. You'll understand if you give it a read. But I do recommend them both. They were fun summer reads, but I felt myself being propelled to read more and to read faster because I was so eager to get out of the head of this character. I did not want to know his thoughts anymore. I didn't want to be inside the head of the bad guy anymore. So that for me was a reason to keep on reading and try to get these finished. But really fun reads. And then I have Birthmarked by Kara M. O'Brien. This was one of my books from the local library book haul. I just couldn't help it. I had to give it a read. We focus on young Gaia Stone, who is raised up to be a midwife by her mother, and so she learns all of those skills. And then one day, the Enclave, much like the Capitol in the Hunger Game, takes away her parents, and she doesn't know why, and so she seeks answers by going into the Enclave in secret, and then she ends up finding out a little bit more than she bargained for. And this was originally meant to be a standalone novel, but the author indicates that they were offered the opportunity to turn this into a trilogy, and so the end was changed from the original ending, and there are 2 other books that I do intend to read. I think they're interesting. I would give this maybe a 4 out of 5. I wouldn't give it a perfect score just because there were some things that felt a little too convenient, and there were some answers that seemed a little too obvious, but it is, young adult fiction, and it might even be kind of suited for middle level, so that might be why. But it was still a fun read, and I lent it to a friend of mine who loved it, devoured it in a few days, so we enjoyed it. It was a fun read. In addition to these books, I also read Everything Everything as an audiobook, and since I don't have a copy of it to show you, I'm going to show you some images real quick. So, Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon focuses on 18-year-old Madeline Whittier, who has had a very different life from the average teenager. She's been forced to live in her home and be homeschooled and live in a sealed environment to protect her from germs and any other kind of threat in the outside world. Despite her isolation, she's able to fall in love with the boy next door, Ollie, and this is their love story. Alright, so that'll about do it for my June wrap-up. What books did you read this month? I'm really excited to see if we read any of the same ones. Meet me back here at the end of July so I can talk about that month's wrap-up. Two of the texts that are on my to-read list are Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire, and The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. So I'm currently working on these as part of the summer reading playlist. So I will hopefully have these done as well as have videos devoted to them since they are summer read texts. I'm just really excited to have a place where I can talk about books and talk about what I like and what I don't like. So I'm really excited that I can kind of use my channel to do a little bit of the booktube stuff as well, because honestly, the thing that I love most about being a teacher is trying to share my love of books and my love of literature and just the love of stories. So this is my first book wrap up. So thanks so much for showing up, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.